So, you guys like Hades? I've been waiting way too long to make this video, so I'm kinda sick of this game. So I wanna get this off my chest. I fucking hate this game. No, I'm joking. Hades, as we all know, is a very good roguelite game. If you don't know much about it, I'll be spoiling quite a lot of the game, probably through talking about it. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend you play it before watching this video. So today, what I wanted to do was go through some Steam reviews of the game, react to them, talk about them. I wanted to see what the people in the reviews were saying, especially the negative ones. I really am interested in seeing what people don't like about the game, because, of course, the game is overwhelmingly positive. It's gonna have mostly good reviews. So my goal today is to find just a good negative review. So at the end, we're gonna pick one positive review that I disagree with, one negative review that I agree with the most, and one funny review. Let's see what people are saying about this game. 3 out of 10, can't sex the symphony. Jesus, man. Okay. It's good, very addictive. Have been trying not to play it for a week now, cause I know once I start again, I won't stop till I pass out. When you start the game, it's extremely easy to just lose yourself, play it repeatedly. The combat loop is extremely satisfying. The rewards you get at the start are extremely satisfying. And the more you play, the more you get. It's extremely addictive loop. Until you get to the end game, where I found when I just wanted to finish the epilogue, it starts to get a bit tedious at times, and I really wanted just to be done with the game. I didn't want to play anymore. I was just gonna be like, I finished this for the video, and that's it. I just wanted to know what happens at the epilogue, and I was gonna 100% the game, but I kinda don't want to now. I don't want to touch the game again. The game is extremely fun, but I felt as though I overplayed it, in a sense, if that makes sense. So what I meant to say at that point was that the game overstayed its welcome. And later in the video I'll elaborate more on why I feel that way. Okay, this one's interesting. Very fun, not usually my type of game, but I heard good things and I'm glad I gave it a shot. Combat feels good and the buffs make the runs interesting. Only thing is, I got tired of making it to the last boss, I think. Dying and having to start the whole run again. If it was just 1 or 2 levels shorter, it would be manageable. But it's just so much work to try a single boss fight over again. See, when he says levels, I don't know if he means this whole section, like the whole of Tartarus or the whole of... Like if he means the whole part of Tartarus or the whole part of Elysium, then I would hardly disagree. It would take away from the experience, and those are actually important parts for the story. If he means the encounters, then that's too little of a change, because 1 or 2 encounters less wouldn't really make that much a difference, I feel. Maybe it would, but it didn't feel as though an encounter less would make it less tedious. What made the experience tedious for me was at the end you stop receiving upgrades and stop improving only to improve in your skill, which is fine, but it would be fun to get more out of the end game. The end game really gave close to nothing. Well, this is a wholesome one. I like this one a lot. I don't usually play action roguelikes. I'm in my 50s and my reflexes aren't the honed blades they used to be. Yet, after all the positive reviews, I decided to give this game a go, and boy am I having fun. Sure, I suck. 30 odd attempts, and the furthest I got was the boss fight in Elysium. But it's such a great game that I don't care. There's always something new to discover or progress to be made. Highly recommend it. That's very wholesome. And I don't think 30 escape attempts to get to Elysium's boss is too bad. That's not too bad, man. I like that one. I had to recommend because even after 200 plus hours, I still get new dialogues and interactions. The amount of work and love put on the development of this game is insane. Yeah, so that is true. You can pet the big dog, but only one head though. Only one head. He has 3. Why can you pet only one head, huh? That's some bias right there. I like the surprisingly complex combat system for a dating sim. I mean, yeah, it's almost a dating sim. You can date in this game. You can date a deuce ahead. Yep. However, counter argument. If this were a real Greek mythology representation, you'd be able to date your relatives as well.
Life is pain! I hate myself!
I wish Greek people were real. Yeah, me too, man. Let's have a look at the negative ones. Unpopular opinion, but this game is so repetitive it makes me want to gouge my eyes out. I mean, it's a roguelite actually. I guess you just don't like roguelites. That's fine. Don't play roguelites, I guess. Hades is a fun game for the first few hours and a chore after that. Everything boils down to one problem. There's no meaningful randomness here. Sure, each run is composed of randomly chosen maps, but they mostly play the same. Sure, there are about 40 types of enemies, but stun locking is the best way to beat every single one of them. Sure, there are different skills, but they all boil down to just changing some stat. Not really true. I didn't really explain very well when initially recording this video, so let me try again. When it comes to the enemies, each enemy has something up their sleeve that you have to account for while battling them. If you just mindlessly spam attack and dodge, you're just going to die. You have to take into account where enemies are placed and what they're doing and what their roles are. And as for the skills, if we're talking about boons, then that's very inaccurate. If you, for example, take Athena's boons, you can very easily block and deflect incoming ranged attacks. And if you didn't, you'd have to dodge them. With Poseidon's boons, you might want to focus on hitting enemies against walls, because you get bonus damage against enemies that you hit against the wall. It isn't really fair to just call every single boon or skill a simple stat change. Anyways, sorry for interrupting so often, I obviously don't know what I'm doing. The final nail in the coffin is the system of permanent upgrades. I wonder where this is going. Instead of mechanics to learn, there are the stat bonuses to grind out. Progressing in this way feels empty and with time kills any challenge the game presents. I've played other roguelikes where each playthrough was set apart with different mechanics requiring different playstyles. Here it's always the same. Just get in range of the enemy and smash the attack button until it dies. Also dash a bit. It gets boring fast. There's a nice story, good art, and music, but they're all wasted on a tedious game loop. So it seems like most of these negative reviews boil down to repetitiveness, which I can agree with, mostly. Here, most of the time when people talk about this, it sounds like they really want to play a roguelike, not a roguelite. The difference being, a roguelike asks for you to improve your skill while also finding items and choosing what to do with them, rather than upgrading what you already have and then just continuing with that preset. I do see the point in repetitiveness in Hades as a roguelite as well. I think it could improve, but I don't really think 19 hours in you will feel that repetitiveness that much. I mean, this person obviously does, but I feel like his point is he doesn't like roguelites, he prefers roguelikes, and that's what most of these reviews boil down to, I think. Playing this game felt like a bad job, doing tedious repetitive stuff again and again and again. Another one, for my cringe compilation. Here's one I forgot to record, which is fun. So this person says, beautiful game, but I've never played a game that had encounters that were so exhausting. I absolutely love roguelikes and lights. This is a Hades shortcoming and my ultimate problem with it. The biggest issue for folks on the fence on whether or not to get the game is the misleading prevalence of praise for this game from Supergiant's cult-like fan base in the reviews and discussion board. I don't think the overwhelming reviews really come from a fan base, like a pre-existing one. I think the fan base was made because the game was good. For a non-fanatic, I will say this game is extremely polished for what it is, but it is simultaneously extremely repetitive and grindy, and not in a positive manner like other roguelikes where concurrent runs feel different and exciting. Any opinion shared in the discussion forums that isn't aligned with the cult following is typically overshadowed with the fan brigade trying to defend the game or just telling folks to get good. So this person obviously doesn't want further discussions because they feel as though all their criticisms won't be listened to, but rather just ignored or taken as an insult, which is fair. Usually when you criticize a very positively reviewed game, you would get backlash for not recommending it or not liking it. That's why every single review starts with a "this is just a personal opinion" or things like that. People don't want to share their negative opinions when they feel like they will be judged by the majority. In his closing statement, he says, "The honeymoon phase with Hades wears off quick." Now, this is another reviewer that put about 20-ish hours into the game, which, to be fair, we don't all have unlimited time on this earth, so I understand if you felt as though you needed more out of your experience in 20 hours that you played the game. However, I feel as though while playing Hades, especially at the start, the point of the game is to get enveloped by the story, to see the sights, what you will unlock at the end. You're highly encouraged to unlock upgrades, to unlock story, because that's the point of Hades, I feel, especially the story. I can acknowledge the fact that Hades doesn't really have a lot of variety through his runs. There are things to mix up the gameplay a little bit, but you won't see many new things if you've already beaten the last boss once. And the point is to beat the boss many times. And if that's not for you, that's just not for you. This is a game where you are supposed to get used to the gameplay, to get used to the enemies and learn from them. It's not really... I really don't want to. This is a great review that I also forgot to record. I want to point out that the game is good. My problem is that, in my opinion, it's a huge step back from previous games, which I wouldn't know because I've not played those. So even though I truly enjoyed characters, gameplay, and art, there are so many things that made my experience just frustrating. He mentions gameplay is fun and allows for very interesting combinations, was a great way of spending free time. So this is the opposite of what we usually see where people say that it's repetitive. Oh, no, he says it's repetitive right here. Alright, after around 20 runs, I already knew what would happen on each level. I guess I don't feel as strongly to that because I'm just acceptant of the way it is. Usually, I didn't think about the gameplay until the very end, where I've played the game for more than 100 hours. Because to me, I was really more focused on what I will be unlocking next. Like, oh, I just did this, so this is unlocked now. So I'll be going to, I don't know, Sisyphus and telling him he's free or something like that. Some people have mentioned that they do love roguelikes and roguelites but don't like Hades, and that's very interesting to me. If you share this opinion, put in the comments why you think it's different from other roguelikes. Maybe give an example and say why it's less repetitive than Hades. I can't really find in my head a game that would be less repetitive as a roguelike, so if you have any, put it in the comments. I would really like to see some comparisons, because right now I don't really see it. Now, this is a great point that made me want to highlight this review. Is he says the story requires a huge amount of grinding to unlock, and when you finally reach them, it's not really satisfying for all the effort you have to put in. Now, this I really agree with. So the story does require a huge amount of grinding to unlock the whole story. You will know if you've played the game that the first ending, quote-unquote, you will get is getting your mother, or Zagreus' mother, Persephone, to get back to the underworld. And that whole interaction with your mother is quite interesting, and the anticipation of her returning is built up from the point you meet her first to the end. And when she finally comes to the underworld, it's quite an event. you don't really need an award for finishing the story that way. But then you unlock the epilogue. Later, you have to get closer to all the Olympians so that your mother can invite them all to a party so that she can show that she's still alive, so that a war doesn't break out. And grinding towards the epilogue feels way more tedious than grinding towards that moment where you get your mother to go back to the underworld. And the payoff isn't really worth it. All we get for finishing the epilogue is seeing Zeus shake Hades' hand and saying good job. That's all. No upgrades, nothing. And for an epilogue that took so long to get to, it feels like you should be getting something more, like another upgrade or a new item. But we get nothing but a picture of Zeus shaking the hand of Hades. Which is sweet, but it's not really worth all the time spent, is it? So yeah, I see some of the points of this review. I won't be reading the rest of it. We still have a lot of other ones to see, but yeah, great point. So, seems like my brain got fried after recording for 50 minutes and I completely forgot the whole shtick of this video. You might remember that I said I'd pick 3 reviews from the rest. 1 positive review I disagree with, 1 negative review I agree with, and 1 funny review. So, contrary to popular belief, it's actually quite hard to disagree with someone who likes the same thing you like. However, the review that claimed fewer encounters would make the game better takes the spot of what I'll call the bad good review. And I'm not calling it that to undermine this person's point of view, by the way, I just find the name catchy. As I see it, shortening the game may improve it in the long term, where you're already getting sick of the game as I did. But a big part of what hooked me about playing Hades in the early game is that I had no shot of beating Hades until I learned the game and upgraded my character while exploring areas I hadn't gotten to yet, all of which are pretty much perfectly amplified by the amount of encounters that are in the game. So up on that pedestal you go. Next on the list is the good-bad review, or the negative review I agree with. This spot definitely goes to the last review we saw. While this review brings out many good points, the one that stuck out to me the most is that the story really does take way too long to grind out, if you want the full ending. So yeah, well said. Now, the last pick is the funniest review, which easily goes to the review that equated Hades to a dating sim. I mean, considering how much I've laughed, it would be only disingenuous to pick anything else. It's clever, I like it. So that's pretty much it. We've picked our 3 reviews and we're done. After finishing, I really can't say if this gimmick with the 3 reviews is necessary, so let me know down in the comments if you really want to see that, or if I should just get rid of that gimmick altogether and just read reviews in the next videos. I mean, of course, this isn't the only type of video I want to make. I'm gonna make something different next, I think, so stick around for that if you're interested. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Bye.